Hey, good morning, everyone. So, today we are going to touch base on the aspect of understanding the TKDL. TKDL stands for traditional knowledge, and for the longest time, the way intellectual property rights have been or has been understood globally needs a revamp. If we talk about the international organizations, the two most important organizations which are somehow correlated but working in different verticals altogether. One is TKDL, that is the traditional knowledge where the Indian counterpart has built a database, and it is said that this is accessible to them before they grant any kind of a patent application as a granted patent. However, anything and everything which is using communication network, that is somehow part of ITU, and ITU stands for International Telecommunication Union. For the longest time, and if we go back to the timeline of 1970, because the act was passed in 1970s, that means the discussion which happened around the Indian patent stuff was happening somewhere between the 1965s and 1970s. And the intent of the Patent Act at that point of time and where we are today on the timeline of 2025 is very different. I'll give you one example. We had the Olympics in India. So in Delhi, there we like today people don't know about it, but there was something called as Apughar, and I studied in army school in early days. So for us to go to Apughar was a ritual rather than a, a kind of a picnic at the school time. So the point of contention here is today that doesn't exist. So a lot of changes has been done in the way um, offline life has been or the offline infra has been, and the same has to be done in the online stuff so that the kiosks can be on a similar playing field. I'll wait for a few more moments and then I'll continue my discussion, and I'll be discussing on the aspect of geographical indications because that is something which can save the country in terms of India, in terms of intellectual property rights. Because when you start appreciating intellectual property rights, there are a lot of things where India is infringing on anything and everything, particularly the trademarking stuff. In most of the cases, what happens is people visit foreign land or any place, they see some brand, they come back, they connect with the CA and the CS, and they file the trademark application, even if they are not operational in India. And then when they try to enter India, there's some kind of negotiations, and that how the whole merger and acquisition law firms have been positioned over the years. Why I say so? Because that is something I never wanted to do. I have been part of the ethos for the longest time. I mean, serving the trademark industry globally since 2006. And at that point of time, the fee structure itself was $500 to handle an application in India. And most of the work which I had done for the trademarking is for China. And I think I have talked about this video earlier also. In one of the cases, there was, I think, class 9. Um, okay, so I was just seeing I have another email. We have a response to be filed. Yes, Peter, that is pending AI stuff for longevity before US. Anyhow, coming back to the point, what is important here is to understand that the geographical indication itself is something to do with the source from where it is, like POS kind of stuff, point of source. Let's take POS as point of source. And I'll just mute myself. I have few emails to be sent across, but let's see. Okay, so the fact here is I've shared the respective links, and TKDL is basically it relates to the traditional knowledge. If we go back to our Indian scriptures, or if we even talk about the APAC, that's the Asian way of working, there's a lot of similarity between the Asian part and the Chinese part in terms of the understanding of traditional knowledge as to how any ailment has to be um, treated at any given point of time. And what is important here is to understand and appreciate that the whole pharmaceutical sector, I mean, why I can say so, because my first degree was in food technology honors from Delhi University, which is University of Delhi, which is celebrating its 100th year. And it was in applied science honors. Although it was food technology, it was more to do with studying everything under the sun. And when I was in my final year of food technology, I mean, the subject was so boring that, and when I saw the kind of people who are working in industry at that point of time, I decided that I'm never going to enter the field, at least in those early stages. However, I had utilized the technical know-how at that point of time and filed a for pumpkin cake, which was Carovita cake. I think there is a patent application for that, but the government has deleted that data set from the database. That means at the back end, at the admin side of the Indian government, currently you can't even review the patents which were filed at that point of time. So this is another pain point in terms of what is the IT sector doing in India in terms of the patent applications. You are not able to log in most of the cases. Even if you are outside India, they deploy the CDNs and you are not able to log in again. Um, Now I'll talk about and walk you through a couple of aspects. One is the traditional knowledge and why even patenting itself is a miscrude word, because folks who have visited Sri Lanka particularly, there is so much of data set in terms of the mechanical way of the work, particularly during the tenure of Ramayana. And Ramayana, we all know about, or people who folks understand that aspect. Ravana was the king and the whole kingdom and everything. That kingdom, till date, it is restored in many ways. And particularly, there's a place called Asdambula. I've been there. I visited the Lion's Paw, and there, it's not a concept; it's a reality. The castle is built in the air. It's a tough track. The hike is really tough. It's not easy, and I remember it took us, I think, we left in the afternoon after 3ish, because even in the morning we took a bus ride from Colombo to Dambola, and from Dambola maybe it was an Uber or we took an auto or tuk-tuk, which is very common in Sri Lanka, and we stayed in Dambola that night. Um, and it's a very different place. Sri Lanka overall is very different landscape, and that landscape is very different from Bangladesh, Bali, and the others. Um, in the offline world, I haven't visited Vietnam till now, but I have been working with the Vietnam Communication Network because I did the capacity building for those folks when they were in India, which happened, I think, maybe 2018, 2019 per se. Because 2020 it cannot happen because 9th of March, I landed back from Burma. 13th of March 2020 was the day which was the official office day for me. 13th of March, yes. And then end of the March was the lockdown, and 8th of April, I think. So it was like, obviously, I thought that was a very small amount of time which would be in the lockdown, because that is a way, at least a part of the infinity on Ruby and Rails was coded. But the scenarios and the factorial stuff which I didn't take into account at that point of time when the coding had to be continued from my end was because I stopped coding for quite a while at that point of time, because I just wanted to rejuvenate myself and understand the uh, data sets which I had collected over the years, and particularly the China data sets. Um, However, the point of contention is I had to go for this, just look into this hashtag pharmasafe. So this event had to happen offline in Mumbai at that point of time in 2020, but we had it online, and we had folks from Interpol and others to discuss this stuff. And it's very clear at the outset that in the pharma sector itself, if you talk about India, what are the sectors which are serving India? Perhaps I'm not talking about the MSMEs, but I'm talking about the bigger landscape. The bigger landscape is the pharmaceutical sector, because healthcare will always play a very pivotal role, because healthcare is prime for keeping the immunity high and stuff. And in the pharmacy itself, we realized that a lot of players are entering the field who had no cognizance of how a pharma sector has to work, because it is not only the doctors, it is the the medical representatives, and it's a whole big ball game of taking care of the healthcare and understanding the parameters in a better fashion. But that didn't happen. On the contrary, a lot of infringement started happening, because we had to use N95 as the mask and all. But in the name of SGD goals, anybody who was selling clothes, whatever the leftover clothes was converted into a mask. And honestly, when you breathe through a non-breathable cotton cloth, you are actually creating some kind of carbon dioxide, and that killed a lot of people at that point of time. And that is the reason um, this um it's very important to understand that masking, not using technology, will hamper, because the human body is not accustomed to this. But if you're using mask which is surgical mask, which is actually certified by the authorities, then only it works. And that led to a lot of deaths. Even if that didn't lead to death, but the body organs cannot work in a proper fashion if proper oxygen is not going into the body, or whatever the the way the human body has to work. I'm not getting into the understanding of the healthcare, but I'm just at the outset trying to set the stage for the folks to understand the nuances around, first, intellectual property rights, second, the sustainable development goals. So we had, and we have, some of the goals which have to be achieved this year, that is 2025. And I think, the way I see it, by September we should be able to achieve that in many ways, because sustainability has to be from within. Although we have only X number of goals, I have written it till 999 goals, but I'm trying to mitigate the risk in the best possible fashion, because earlier this coding stuff and everything was handled by a few other organizations and the people I work with. But because of the ongoing menace in the ecosystem, I had to code again, and I had to code properly again. I'm coding 24/7 in the best possible manner, because I have to take care of other aspects also. So I'll just talk about one of the sustainability stuff which I'm doing. And this is something I saw when I was traveling in London. So 2 years back, I was in London at this point of time, or I would rather say I was covering that area where I covered United Kingdom in the best possible fashion, and covered a lot of places. Went to Scotland also. I was in Ireland. I went to Cliff of Moher and stuff. It was a really good experience. So right now my carbon footprint is negligible, or rather say negative, in terms of the kind of carbon footprint I had over the years. And my first air trip, that's the airplane trip, happened in the year 1991. And that time India was in a very different situation. And I traveled from New Delhi to Calcutta at that point of time. maybe it was COL at that point of time. And I used to travel with the air hostess, and that time was very different. And today, I mean, Air India in 1991 was very different. Air India today in 2025 is very different. So perhaps my journey of the air world in terms of the physical presence after being born in this body format starts from 1991. Now, coming back to the understanding here is to appreciate and understand. I think you should go through this pattern business idea, which is actually talking about education and language in the artificial intelligence world, because artificial intelligence is nothing but the way any Homo sapiens sapien is tackling whatever is given on the UI, that is the user interface, and at the back end, the different modules are learning from that, and that is like this is more of a menace in terms of if you are working with AI, because the data set can be wrong, because once the input data is wrong, whatever you do, the output will never be right, and all the calculations and the simulations are going to be wrong. What is important is to appreciate the RI. This is a real intelligence, and individuals who understand this, they should develop their own models and not share it with the public. You have to keep it private, it has to be proprietary, and it has to mimic your own personality or persona, because then only that data set would be able to uh, work upon the problem statements which you have on a daily basis. I have zillion AI agents working for me in the online world. That is my own persona. And then I have the coders based out all over the world who are mimicking my own persona in personality and training their stuff to execute the problem statements. And that is how we are able to resolve so many things every 24 hours. If I take 24 hours, that's 24 hours. So we are online at any given point of time. That's the way we have organized everything, which I feel is the only way out to live this hybrid remote life where a part of us is online, a part of us is offline. Even if in the sleeping mode, somebody is doing something in the online world, researching stuff and getting the data back to us, then we review that, and then we see what data set to reject and what to accept, and then develop the models around it. So that is how it has to be done, and that's the only way out. There is no other solution to this menace of the problem statement which we have to cater right now. Thank you for watching out the video. Probably I will come online maybe in a while. I just wanted to set the stage right for the folks to see. And for Elon Musk, this is a message for Elon Musk. We are in the process of getting the data set ready for so many things, but I'm personally of the opinion that we should use and deploy our resources first in uh, Sri Lanka, China, Burma, Bali, and the others, see how the data reacts, how we are able to solve those problems, and then only enter India with that data set, because other data sets are not helping us to resolve anything. So that is the way I think Elon can take his own decision, because he's tackling many more things. I'm tackling, obviously, we are working. I wouldn't say we are working in parallelogram. We are working in very different directions, but the aim is same. The For us, we know the output, so we are just maneuvering stuff and deploying stuff in the best possible way to understand. And intellectual property rights is the menace of the capitalistic world, and we have to stop that. And that is one reason intellectual property rights has to be abolished, and create a level playing field of pooling resources. At the same point of time, the best of the people have to be in that first core group, and they have to be in the physical space, so that when they are physically present, those problems will be tackled in a much better fashion. This remote work and hybrid work is for the workers and the folks who are serving the stakeholders in this case. So, yeah, that's my 10-cent review today, and we are on for VC's 2025. Any other hashtag which is coming to my mind right now, I'll just do that. Wishing everyone a happy day. Have a great day. Bye bye.